Welcome, my friends. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Jen Hillman, and today we are going to continue our exploration of this beginner series. Today we are going to be taking a look at how to safely perform Chaturanga dandasana, and we'll also be taking a look at the differences between upward facing dog and Cobra pose. So this is going to help you to build some strength in the arms, shoulders, chest, and upper back, ultimately helping you to relieve back pain and giving you those fundamentals that you need in order to safely practice yoga for a lifetime. The first pose we're going to take a look at is Chaturanga. Now, this pose appears in almost every vinyasa class, so you might think that it's simple. But the truth is, Chaturanga is an extremely challenging pose and should not be done lightly. So I'm glad that you're here so I can show you the proper technique and the proper bone stacking that will allow you to get the absolute most out of this pose without injuring yourself over the long run. So we're going to start in a tabletop position. We'll start slow, nice and easy. So coming into a tabletop position, we are going to make our very first movement is to walk your knees back behind your hips. Okay, so instead of stacking your knees under your hips, we're going to move the knees back a little bit. And then I want you to shift your weight forward, extending through the front of your hips. So we're coming into a half plank pose, right? So the shoulders and the hips and the knees are all in one long line. So try not to relax into a hammock, but lift through your core center as you push the mat away with your hands. Then extend out through your neck so your head isn't heavy and hanging down. I'm going to lift and extend through the neck. So this is our half plank. This is a great starting point to feel what it feels like to bear some of your weight in your hands and begin to awaken some power and strength through your shoulders. So let's just come back to kneeling. Relax your arms and hands, right? So we're just waking things up. You should start to feel some energy in the forearms and in your shoulders and chest. So now that we're awakening the body, we are starting to tap into these muscle groups. So we're going to come back into our half plank pose. Again, you want to check that your knees are behind your hips and your shoulders come up over your wrists. Now, before we move into Chaturanga, we need to adjust the placement of our arms so that we have appropriate bone stacking when you move into that Chaturanga. So here's what I mean. When we come into Chaturanga pose, you want to have a nice 90-degree angle with the elbows. Sometimes we come too far forward, sometimes we're too far back. But as we work that bone stacking, we want to stack the elbow over the wrist and eventually work to having the shoulder in line with the elbow. So that's what I mean by bone stacking. So let's see if we can experiment with that a little bit. So again, coming from that nice half plank pose. In order to get that appropriate alignment, we need to shift the shoulders forward even more. So for some of you might even need to bring your knees a little forward so you can get even more forward movement. Take a nice deep breath in. Notice how my shoulders are now in front of my wrists. As we exhale, that's when you begin to bend the elbows. Let's press on up. Come back to your hips. Kneeling down here, shake out your arms. So, even in this modified version with the knees on the floor, you can already start to see that Chaturanga is a pretty challenging pose. So we're gonna do 3 rounds of Chaturanga push-ups just to help you build that strength and stamina in the pose. So again, we'll start the same way in our half plank. Again, the preparation is a shift forward, reaching your heart forward. Try to glide your shoulder blades down your back, lift and tone through your core. As you inhale your breath, lift your heart and lift your head. Then we'll exhale and bend your elbows 90 degrees. And even if you don't quite make it to 90 degrees, you might just bend your elbows to 45 degrees. That's great. Let's inhale and press it back up. I would rather see you come down less far with better alignment than to go too far and miss that bone stacking. So let's try again. Another inhale here. And we'll exhale, bend the elbows, try to keep the shoulders down and back. And we'll inhale and press back up. Let's do one more for a total of 3. Reach your heart forward. As you bend into your elbows, pause as you exhale. And we'll go ahead and press back up. Sink your hips to your heels and shake it out. So that's the perfect place to start. You can always practice Chaturanga with your knees on the floor, getting that additional support from the legs as you work into that upper body strength. And if it feels challenging or overwhelming at first, don't worry. It's a very challenging pose and it will come in time. You're going to want to favorite this video so you can come back and practice these fundamentals as you continue to develop your practice. Eventually, as you build strength in that Chaturanga, you can begin lifting the knees, which gives you another level of challenge as more of the weight goes into your hands and your upper body. From here, we are going to take a look at our Cobra pose. Cobra is definitely my preferred pose over downward facing dog. I'll say that whole statement again. Cobra pose is definitely my preferred posture over upward facing dog, because up dog is even harder than Chaturanga. So I like to practice Cobra pose, but we are going to visit up dog just so you know the difference between the 2 poses and how to do that up dog correctly and safely. But first things first, let's warm up with our Cobra pose. So after your Chaturanga, you'll lower all the way down onto your belly. So we can go there now. So once you come down onto your tummy, you're going to bring the tops of your feet to the floor and hug your legs together behind you. So we want the legs to still have a feeling of action and muscular engagement. Then bringing your hands alongside your chest, spread your fingers wide apart. So you really take up some real estate with your hands. Try and cover as much surface area as you can. Then hug your arms close by your body with your elbows pointing up like little cricket legs. Now, the very first thing we're going to do from here is lift the tops of your shoulders. So before you do anything else, we're just going to focus on the head of the humerus, the top of the shoulder there. You want to glide your shoulder blades together. Think about drawing the tips of your shoulder blades down your back as you lift your shoulders up as high as you can. So now we already start to feel some muscular activation in the upper back. Now I want you to focus a little attention on this index finger of your hands. As you begin to peel your chest up away from the mat, see if you can apply a gentle pressure with the index finger of your hands. Drawing your shoulder blades down your back, curl your chest away from the floor with a gentle activation through the hands. So now we feel the upper, middle, and lower back, toning the strength of your spine. Take one more inhale here. See if you can float your hands off of the floor and maybe even lift your chest a little higher. Amazing. Let's go ahead and come down to the floor. Thanks for visiting, Nova. Great. Let's try that one more time. And we're going to press into a little bit higher version of Cobra pose. But I'm going to talk you through it one step at a time. So we start the same way with the legs hugging together, pressing down through the tops of your feet. Spread your fingertips wide apart as you press your palms down towards the earth. Then the very first thing we'll do is lift the shoulders, hugging your shoulder blades together. Draw your shoulder blades down your back, and I just felt a little pop in my spine, so my body's loving it. On your inhale, we'll begin to lift, peeling your heart away from the mat, pressing down through that index finger. Now, we can press into a higher Cobra pose by pressing into the strength of your arms. But as you do, try to avoid shrugging the shoulders, right? This is where we most often want to go because the shoulders are tight and they're used to doing all the lifting. So the tendency is to go shoulders up. But I want you to really focus on going shoulders down, lengthening through the back of your neck. Then again, remember that index finger. Press down and forward through your index finger as you press yourself up into a higher pose. Now, we want to really focus on curving through the upper back. So again, it's not a crunch into the low back. This is not it. Don't do this. Don't do it. Just come back down. Relax. Engage the strength of your legs. Spread your fingertips wide. Roll your shoulder blades up and back. Then we peel the chest away from the floor. And if you want to take it a little higher, you press down and forward through the fingertips. It's a much different sensation than hoisting from the shoulders, right? The shoulders stay down. Finding more power and more strength through the spine. Beautiful work. Let's press to a child's pose. After doing all that work in your back, you want to give yourself a moment to release. Take some deep breaths into your back body as you relax. So if you're doing that Cobra pose correctly, it should be a full spinal awakening. You should be feeling every muscle along your spine tingling with sensation. If you're feeling your shoulders are tingling with sensation, then that means there's room for growth, right? We want to keep working the muscles along the back body. Take one more full deep breath right here in your child's pose, all the way in and all the way out. As you're ready, go ahead and press yourself back up to a kneeling pose. Now, as promised, we are going to take a look at upward facing dog because it is a very powerful pose and it is something common in a traditional vinyasa flow. And if you are going to practice upward facing dog, I really want you to do it safely. So we're going to talk about exactly how to do that. So you remember in Chaturanga, in order to get that proper bone stacking, you have to shift your shoulders forward in front of your wrists in order to bend the elbows and get that nice 90-degree angle. In order to move into upward facing dog, we transition from Cobra pose, and you actually have to shift forward even more to be able to lift your chest forward and through. So obviously this is not done with the knees on the ground. I was just showing you that way so you could get the visual of what's happening in the upper body before we actually move into the full pose. So if you are still practicing chaturanga with your knees on the floor, which is totally okay, you're gonna wanna stick with Cobra pose for now. Upward facing dog is something that you advance to once you have a strong, solid chaturanga with the knees lifted. So I'm doing all this talking now because I want to demo the pose, but when you're doing these challenging poses, it's kind of hard to talk at the same time. So I want to give you this understanding of what's happening in the pose. So again, we'll come back into our chaturanga, and if you want to practice along, I give you full permission to play with it. And if you want to just keep practicing Cobra pose, I think that's beautiful. Okay, so from our chaturanga, and again, this is going to happen with the knees lifted. If you want to give this a whirl, you can definitely give it a try. Again, the fundamentals are the same. We shift the heart forward, shoulders come in front of the wrists in order to lower down and come into that 90-degree angle. To transition into that up dog, we pull the chest forward even more, allowing you to roll over the tops of your feet, press and extend the arms, and now my shoulders have returned back over my wrists. It's like making a big circle. So the shoulders come forward, down, forward even more to circle to the top of the pose. So again, what I did just now, that was like a modified version, probably not exactly how you want to practice. We'll do it the right way again here, but I want you to take breaks, shake out your wrists and hands, and if you're getting fatigued here, if your hands and wrists are a little tired, be sure you roll them around, stretch them out, and just know that the more you practice, the stronger you'll get and the easier it will be to practice these poses. So one more time, let's take a look at that upward facing dog, and then we'll call it a day. So we'll come back into our chaturanga preparation with the legs straight and strong behind you, the belly lifted, right? We're not a hammock. The first step is to inhale and shift your heart forward. Rolling the shoulders back, chest open, we slowly lower into your chaturanga for a full exhale. The inhale draws you forward even more, rolling to the tops of your feet, and here the knees and the thighs are lifted, so only the tops of the feet and the hands are on the floor. Upward facing dog. Beautiful work, my friends. Let's come into that child's pose, relaxing your hips to your heels, your forehead to the mat. You can gently roll your wrists around, letting your arms and hands relax. If you're making circles with the wrists, go ahead and reverse directions. We want to move them both ways. Then circle your arms down by your sides, letting your palms rest face up. Take some deep breaths as you melt over your legs, letting your heart rate slow down and your breathing return to neutral. And when you're ready, you can press yourself back up to kneeling. Shake out those arms and hands one more time. And give yourself a pat on the back because, as I mentioned, these are not easy poses. These are some of the most challenging poses that you'll see in a sun salutation. So you're doing a great job, and I'm proud of you for sticking with it. If you're feeling challenged or frustrated, have compassion with yourself. We all struggle when we're learning something new. That's exactly why I made these fundamental videos for you, to help you build confidence in your practice from the very beginning. Now go ahead and follow me on my social media at Jen Hillman. You can also visit my website, jenhillman.com, and come back and see me for the next video in our beginner series, because we are going to be taking a look at the famous downward facing dog. So I have a video all about downward facing dogs. So I hope you'll stay tuned, and I'll see you there.